Hi readers, Chris here. Today I'm going to be doing a double review, and that's going to be Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters and Searcher by Nicole Bates. The reason I'm doing two reviews today is because, in case you haven't noticed, I've been having a hard time sticking to my normal posting schedule. Things have been super crazy at work, super crazy to the point where I am working some nights till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and it has been interfering with my normal posting schedule. Hopefully that won't last, but I am sorry that I am behind on some videos, behind on watching videos, behind on doing reviews. I'm behind on everything. Bear with me. Hopefully you'll get back to normal soon. But on the plus side, I do have a new camera, new sound, new video, all sorts of new stuff going on. So hopefully you can tell the difference. I'm going to talk about each of these books individually. I will be putting chapter times in the description box below if you want to skip to a certain one. But I'm going to start off with the more popular of the two books. Sorry, but this one has been out longer, and that's going to be Sea of Monsters. If you're not familiar with the Percy Jackson series, basically Percy is a young boy. He's what they call a half-god because his father is one of the gods. In this world, the classic Greek mythology gods actually exist. So I'm talking Zeus, Hades, Ares, Poseidon, any mythological creature you could possibly think of, it's probably in here. So at the end of book 1, Percy and his friends, all the kids that are like, quote unquote, half gods, all go to this camp called Camp Half-Blood. Because if they live in the real world, like they're in danger from mythological creatures, so they all go to this camp where they can kind of be safe and learn to become heroes. So in the first book, Percy and his friends kind of go on this road trip, this quest, if you will. And in book 2, they have to go on a different type of quest. And this time, instead of a road trip, if you can't tell, they go on a sea voyage. Now, in this second story, the camp specifically is kind of under threat, and Percy and his friends have to go out and find this object to try and save the camp. Shenanigans ensues, etc., etc., etc. Compared to the first book, which I really liked the whole road trip trope in the first book, I felt like this sea voyage was not quite as fun. Like, it was shorter. Like, the whole book is not the sea voyage. That's just like one section of it. It's a bit shorter, and I didn't like it as much as the road trip in the first book. That being said, though, there are some new characters introduced in this book that I do really like. I feel like, you know, Percy is really the main character, obviously. It's his series. It's called Percy Jackson. But just like, you know, Harry Potter is the main guy in Harry Potter, like, eventually the other characters start to get a chance to shine, and I feel like that's what starts to happen in book 2, which I really like as well. Another thing that I really like this book compared to the first one is that I found this book super funny. Now, the first book was just kind of like chuckle funny. This one is laugh out loud funny. There's one scene in particular, which I don't want to ruin it if you've never read it, but let's just say Percy gets turned into an animal, a small animal, and it's so random, and I found it super hysterical. The other thing I really like about this book and this series overall is it really does kind of remind me of Harry Potter in a way, because in the Harry Potter series, each book in the series is its own individual story. Like, there's a clear goal, beginning, middle, and end. But at the same time, in the background, there's like this overarching plot going on. And the same thing is happening in Percy Jackson. Book 1, book 2 are their individual stories, very clear plots with beginning, middle, and end. But also, there's kind of like this dark, mysterious force that's in the background that is influencing things but hasn't really been addressed yet. I'm assuming that that will happen at the end of the series in the final book. I haven't read them, so I don't know yet. Don't tell me. But I assume that's going to happen. And I do like things like that because you know it's there. You know it's going to have to be dealt with at some point, but it's just kind of in the background right now. So it very much reminds me of like how Voldemort was in like the early Harry Potter books. So overall, I really, really, really enjoyed this second book in the series. Again, totally understand why this series is so popular. It's fun, it's full of adventure, and it's funny. So I guess I would have to say maybe I like it slightly less than book one, but in other cases, but it's also funnier than book one. So I don't know. I guess it depends. I'm already on to book 3, which I'll give you a kind of a halfway point review of that one. Also a really, really, really great book, but again, for totally different reasons than 1 and 2. More to come on that in a later video. Next up, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Searcher by Nicole Bates. If you watched my wrap-up video or other previous videos, then you will know that Nicole Bates is a friend of mine over on Instagram. I met her last year over on Bookstagram. She sent me one of her books to review. It was called Gutted. It was a science fiction book, and then when she started writing this book, she was looking for beta readers, and I volunteered. So I beta read this book last summer. I read it in its kind of unedited form, and then of course, you know, the final version got sent out. She sent me a copy. It's really cool to see my name in the acknowledgments when, you know, she talks about people that helped with the book, and it says, huge thanks to Chris of @ChrisReviews, Tamara at Tommy Reads, Tammy at Tamami, etc., etc. You were all so helpful, and I appreciate you. So that's really cool. So I'm saying that because I am like slightly biased about it because I did read the book. I did give, you know, some what I hope was helpful criticism, and I want the book to do well because I really like Nicole. So, as I said previously, so this book, in this world, everyone has instead of like a soul being a, you know, kind of incorporeal thing that we all have, in this world, everyone's soul is a stone. And they can come in all different shapes and sizes and colors. And depending on the color of your stone, your little soul here, it kind of like gives you a predisposition towards certain types of roles within this community. So certain people are what they call searchers. So they kind of go out in the desert and they search for these stones. Some people are awakeners. That's when they take the raw stone and they actually create life out of it. Some people are cutters. They cut the stone, etc., etc., etc. The list goes on. So it's a really unique idea and a really cool world, a really cool setting. One thing, now the thing I will say, the thing I struggled with the most is that there's a lot of unique terminology in this book. And what I mean by that is like all the things that I was just talking about, you know, like the stones and different types of stones, etc. They all have different unique names. Like an unawakened stone is called a cholera or cholera. They have flakes that come off of them and they're called chasai. And then depending on what color the stone is, they have different names for that, like Anlin, Shailu, Rahan. Like they all have different names depending on what the colors are. So it's super, super, super difficult to try and like wrap your head around that. Now, luckily there is a glossary in the beginning, but I am someone who doesn't like to have to refer to a glossary when I'm reading. I feel like at some point during the book, it should just become kind of natural to you, and I feel like that doesn't quite happen here. So having said that though, I do think that there are a lot of good things in here, which is mostly our plot. So we have a young boy, and his stone, his cholera, is this kind of yellowish brownish color. And what that means in this world is that there is a history of people having this type of soul that have been like not the greatest people. They've been criminals, people who steal, people who attempt murder, like all sorts of things. So our young main character, Hasahai, kind of has to deal with the fact that when people meet him, they judge him, even though, like, that's not who he really is. So in his young life, he kind of decides, like, well, if people are going to think this about me, then I'm just going to prove them right, basically. Of course, you know, being a young kid, that doesn't work out so well. So later on in life, he gets a chance to be a searcher, which means he gets to go out in the desert and try to find raw, unawakened souls. I love the relationship he has with his teacher. So he gets assigned to be taught by not like the best or the first searcher in this world, but by the second, this woman. And I think that she is a super cool character. So working with his teacher and the other people that he meets in the city, you know, Hasahai stumbles upon this plot. And this plot is that basically there is this mother and father characters, and they're basically like the Adam and Eve of this world. They are responsible for like all life. They are the originals, the original beings that were created. They were the original people that, you know, gave life to soulless rocks and gems. Like, they are the end all be all. But he stumbles upon a plot where some people are unhappy with the mother and father and the way they've been doing things, so they want to destroy them. And of course it ends up that, you know, our young hero is like the only one that can stop it. And you know, it's funny, when I first read the story, I feel like I was so focused on, like, I don't know, like, development. I had like a developer's editor's hat on, or like grammar, but I didn't really take a step back and look at like the full picture. So when I was reading it through the second time, I had so many questions about this world and the things in it. Like, for example, like how when people are awakened, they talk about, in the story it mentions that, like, in order to awaken a soul, like for a couple to get a child, an awakened soul costs a lot of money. And it's really made my mind go down this rabbit hole of like, well, is that population control? Who gets to decide that? Like, should they get to decide that? Like, there's a lot of things that you could question in here if you want to think about it that hard. I feel like at the end of the day, it is probably just like a simple sci-fi fantasy adventure story. But on the other hand, I also feel like there are some things in here like that are bigger questions that could really make you think. So it's all about what you take out of it. You can take a fun, simple story, or you can ask yourself some deeper questions. So that's why I've really been enjoying reading Searcher the second time around, even though, like I said, I do struggle with the terminology a little bit. At the end of the day, I like the characters, I like the story, and if you're looking for like a completely new, different sci-fi fantasy take, I would definitely recommend giving this one a try. I was trying to keep this video short. I don't know how much of that I'm going to edit out, but if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel, and I will have more book reviews coming your way soon. Happy reading! I couldn't finish this video without looking for one of my furry friends. They were all sleeping, but Meepers decided she wanted to get up and say hello. Can you say hi to everyone, Meepers? Say hello. Thanks for watching.